Thanks, Ahana. I think just building off of what Ahana shared, I think another argument made for the use of e-collars is that it allows dogs freedom when they're off leash. And again, I find that that's very, very problematic, right? Because if we had to break it down into a couple of different things, I think, when we put our dogs in situations where they are supposed to be off leash or expected to be off leash, I think there are lots of different things to consider. And this is also really where I think some of the barks principles and ways sort of come into being. And so some of them is, one is what is your dog's own ability to sort of regulate themselves and be responsive to you when they are in an outdoor environment, right? If they aren't able to respond to you, if they aren't able to regulate themselves, then keeping them off leash or creating that space again is something to question, right? I think the second thing to think about is what is the quality of this outdoor environment where we are letting our dogs be off leash, right? If it is filled with triggers, if it is overstimulating to our dog, then is that the right environment for our dog to be in to begin with? And so, why would we in the first place even put our dog in an environment like that, right? I think the other aspect to consider is also just the ability, just the trust and responsive in your relationship with your dog, right? At the end of the day, if I am outdoors with my dog and I need to sort of call my dog back to me because I feel like something is unsafe or my dog's moved away really far away, and my dog's not responding to me, or I don't trust my dog enough to be outdoors, then I think, again, that's something for us to question, right? I think the use of an equipment does not solve for those things. I think when we think about our dogs being off leash, for most part, we want them to have that off leash experience so that they have freedom, so that they have agency to move around as much as they want, right? But is it really freedom if there is the probability of being shocked? Is there really freedom if there's probability of experiencing pain, right? Or are we just creating this sort of illusion of freedom in some way or the other? And I think the example that really comes to mind is, with one of my own dogs, Mutton, who's a pit bull type dog, and again, well, stereotypically a dog that would perhaps be subjected to this kind of equipment. And she tends to find cattle very, very triggering, to the point that if they're very close, she can get very, very defensive. And so I think that the thing that I think about is, would I, for example, put her in a situation where she's around her trigger, leave her off leash and use the collar to give her freedom? Or would I just not put her in a situation like that and reduce the amount of stress and challenge that she's experiencing, right? And so I think there are lots of things to sort of unpack and work through as we figure out how to leave our dogs off leash. And I don't think that an e-collar is the tool to help you do that, right? And again, I think coming back to, I think the why becomes really important, right? What is this off-leash experience that we want to provide for our dogs? What is the benefit of that? What are we trying to create for them? And does using the e-collar in any which way actually help us achieve that? So I think that's definitely something to think about.